Reports are widely circulating that Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin have agreed to a third fight under the proviso that they both have interim fights beforehand. Canelo is likely to face Billy Joe Saunders at 168 pounds. Not sure who Gennady Golovkin could face next before that rubber match with Canelo, assuming both guys win their fights. Now, in the immediate aftermath of the Golovkin-Derevyanchenko fight, my perception was that there wasn't much demand for a third fight between Canelo and Golovkin because Golovkin didn't look good against Derevyanchenko. He looked like an old man. Even though he managed to last the distance and he won officially on the scorecards, to me, he looked like a beaten man in that fight in terms of his will. I'm not saying he was completely broken, but he just looked dejected after that fight. He looked relieved to have gotten through it. Derevyanchenko gave him all types of business on the inside. And he hurt Golovkin to the body on numerous occasions in that fight. We've never seen Golovkin look so vulnerable as he did against Derevyanchenko. So off the back of that, people were saying, nah, don't really want to see a third Canelo fight at this point, particularly given the fact that Canelo's gone on to knock out Sergey Kovalev and do all the things that he's done. So, yeah, I just don't think there was that much clamor for the fight. However, in boxing, they say you're only as good as your last fight. And we'll see what happens in Canelo's next fight and in Golovkin's next fight. Because if Canelo fights Billy Joe, looks bad, maybe it's a controversial decision, and Golovkin looks good against whoever he faces, then there might be a lot more excitement for the rubber match. Also, Canelo is having to come down to 160 pounds, according to reports. This will be the first time he's fought at 160 for a while, right? He's been fighting at 168. So how will that affect Canelo, having to come down to 160 to face Triple G? Now, Triple G is the older guy, and generally, you would assume that it's going to be more difficult for the older guy to make weight. But Canelo may well be the naturally bigger man. I know that Canelo was coming up from originally welterweight when he turned pro, through light middleweight, but that's because he was very young. His body was still growing. Canelo right now is a solid 168. And of course, he was up at 175 for the Kovalev fight. So, yeah, I think that we have to wait and see how both guys perform in their next fights. And off the back of that, there might actually be a lot of excitement for this trilogy. And if you're going to do a trilogy, this is the way to do it. Have the third fight not immediately after the second one. Let it marinate for a little bit. Let a little bit of time elapse before you have that third fight. That's how you keep the excitement. Because you allow a new narrative, new drama to build back up. It's like old friends reunited, but so much has changed. The dynamic in the relationship has changed because both fighters have grown. Maybe one guy has grown and the other guy has diminished. So that is why I like there to be a bit of space before you have the third fight. Kind of like Holyfield and Bowe, because they had their first fight. Then Holyfield came back and he fought one fight in between against Alex Stewart. I think Riddick Bowe fought two fights in between. He fought the Jesse Ferguson and Michael Dokes fights in between. Then they had their rematch. But after that, Holyfield fought Michael Moorer. He lost that fight. I can't remember how many fights exactly Holyfield had. Did he have the Moorer fight and then nothing else and then go into the Riddick Bowe? But he was out of the ring for a while, Holyfield. Before he faced Riddick Bowe in the third fight. He was out of the ring for a while, and Bowe was still fighting, and then eventually they got it on for a third time. Same way with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. They had their first two fights relatively close, but then there was a longer period in between, and they had their third fight after Muhammad Ali beat George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle. So, yeah, I think that it's good for Canelo and Golovkin to have the rubber match, the third fight. If you were to pick right now, I reckon most people would say Canelo stops Golovkin this time. He walks him down, stops him. But we have to see how Golovkin looks in his next fight and Canelo looks in his next fight. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is this a fight you're excited for at all? Perhaps you think that Canelo won't get past Billy Joe anyway. Billy Joe's going to win that fight. Maybe Golovkin gets upset in his next one. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments. It's happening. I'm out.